KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. And standing by to join me is director Jay Silverman. We're going to talk about his latest film, Saving Paradise. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm flattered that you're having me on.
You know what? I loved having you on previously with your other films. You are like nonstop busy. I love it.
We're very lucky. I think that my business model is designed to do a movie every 2 or 3 years, and we had a little hiccup because of the pandemic.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do during the pandemic? Were you editing, or what was going on with your film?
Well, we filmed the movie in September of 19,
Okay.
and finished the movie literally one day before LA got locked down, which would have been the end of March.
Okay.
2020. So for the last year and a half, we've been waiting for this moment, which is September 3rd.
Release.
The distribution release.
Okay.
So on a constructive note, it's been a wonderful opportunity for us to work on our next film.
Well, that's good.
Which is what we've been doing.
That's good. I want to back up and ask you, because some people don't know your background, but when did you first know you wanted to go into filmmaking? Because I think you're involved in commercial production, correct?
I was involved in commercial production and photography for 30 years. And then around that time, I started doing commercials, and I did a TV show called The Cleaner for AMC with Benjamin Bratt. And then we went on to create, as you know, because you interviewed me for my first and second movies.
Yes.
To make now 3 movies. So we're very excited. We're independent filmmakers. I don't do commercials anymore. I don't do photography per se anymore. I make movies.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate.
It's interesting, you know, when you reach a certain point in your career and you say, I can really call myself a filmmaker, or I can really call myself right?
It's an interesting thing that you just said, because I'm not, we all have egos, but I still have trouble saying that I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Because it sounds so cliche, you know?
Right. Well, you're humble, but you reach a point where you get so many accolades and you're like, I can really call myself a filmmaker.
Well, I'd like to agree with you, but it is difficult because we're inundated every day with film descriptives, you know, what's going on. It seems like you can't pick up TikTok or Instagram without seeing, you know, references or parodies or what have you on film or filmmaking. And it's an incredible opportunity to make movies and share them.
Now, tell me the process. Walk me through your latest film, Saving Paradise, which I loved. I wish there was a disclaimer, bring Kleenex, because I was like, towards the end, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so touching. I'm not going to give anything away, but tell me the process from the beginning. Did you get the script?
The screenplay was procured by my associate, Bethany Cerrona, who found it on a internet website called Penciltown was the name of the film. And the website was called The Blacklist. And it's not it's not something the public can easily get to. You have to have credentials. You had to have, you got to be a legitimate producer or what have you. But there are thousands of scripts available. Some are, 5 stars, some are less than that. And in this particular case, she procured the script. We interviewed the writer named Billet. He liked our vibe. We liked his vibe. And we spent 2018 developing Penciltown, which later turned into Saving Paradise. It's an important thing to say, since I think that your viewers are interested in the process per se.
Right.
I think it's important to say that when you acquire a script, you have a number of tasks that you have to attend to. Number one, affordability. Number two, we love the story, but we can't have it take place at the Sistine Chapel. We can't have it, so we got to figure out a way, not unlike yourself, because I can see you get this wonderful set behind you. I don't know how you can afford that, but it's beautiful. Modern technology enables that. In our case, we had to find a pencil factory, which we did procure in Tennessee, and we shot the movie here in Los Angeles. So it required a lot of tasking, innovative thinking, and problem solving to make this movie. And it starts with the script, because the script didn't change much from what it was when we bought it.
It's good.
You become kind of a master at trying to figure out what is containable and what isn't.
Yes.
And a lot of that the writer doesn't think about, because the writer doesn't decide to write a script that's going to be affordable for Jay Silverman.
Right.
He writes a script just like you wrote yours.
Yes.
And at one point you wake up in the morning and you have, decisions to make. Do we want, as stated in the script, 300 people in the background, or can we afford just 30?
Exactly.
And on one level, that's the beginning of the challenge of making independent movies. We don't have budgets like Marvel,
right,
or Disney.
Yeah. Well, and also the challenge of, and I noticed at the end of the film, this was in the fine print, of finding an actual pencil factory, because years ago there were 53, and then there's 3, and what if they weren't open, or what if you couldn't get access, and there's all those what ifs.
I'll be honest with you. Number one, the pencil factory called Musgrave, which you can Google and see, is still in business.
Great.
And it's a small little town called Shelbyville in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And we discovered this because the writer, it's a true story. The writer interviewed this the owner of this pencil factory, and established a rapport with him. He was initially interested in purchasing that company, and he ended up, well, I don't want to really get into
go give it away.
the big story, but the reality of it is that he did not buy that company, and he tried to buy another one, and that company ended up getting acquired by a international company and moved to Mexico. So it's part and parcel to the story, and I'm not ashamed to go into the details at a level that's not going to give away the movie. But to be perfectly honest with you, I've never been at a pencil factory. I don't even know how they made pencils. So for me to wake up one morning and have somebody give me a tour of how to make pencils from A to B, I could tell you was a real joy.
Sure.
I'm a mechanically minded guy.
Right.
Not to mention all the equipment, everything's 100 years old.
I was just going to say, you have a fascination with like old cameras. I know that. So to go and actually see this equipment from years ago is amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. And I mean, just for the reference, since we're talking to people that are interested in this film and how it might affect them, whether technical or inspirational, the opening of the movie, most of how to make a pencil, I shot on my iPhone.
You did?
Yeah. And and it wasn't done to save money. It was done because we could do it.
Right.
You can drop your phone in the middle of a machine versus bringing a motion picture camera in the middle of a machine is
amazing.
Huge task.
It's amazing. I mean, just to have that technology, to not have to bring all that big gear. So you basically went there and captured what, B-roll kind of footage?
Yeah, we captured, well, it's funny, when our trailer was on, it is on YouTube right now, you will find that there's a couple comments, or one guy made a comment sarcastically about, these actors are trying to become, pencil makers. The truth of it is they're all actually real employees at the factory making pencils.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we ended up shooting in Los Angeles at a furniture factory, and brought in props from the pencil factory from Tennessee. And I don't think you can tell which is which.
I don't think so.
And that's exciting, because that's part of what makes filmmaking fulfilling, is your ability to kind of turn the corner of the truth and fact and fiction.
And you need to be adaptable when you don't have a certain thing and you need to get to that point, knowing, kind of figuring it out. which is what
Right.
you did. Yeah. How did you cast?
Well, the casting was done in Los Angeles, and it is, one of the huge challenging challenges of making a independent movie, because number one, you want noticeable, recognizable people, and
Sure.
unfortunately, that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And when you're making an independent film, you're working on a very defined budget, and I can say with all honesty, we were very, very fortunate here.
They were
Um,
great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I loved the guy, Walter.
Well, it's interesting for your audience. Walter is actually an individual who is played in the movie as a person suffering from a.
On the spectrum.
What was, I apologize.
On the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He was
Yeah,
on the
the
spectrum.
descriptive is he's on the spectrum. And,
Sure.
this was even before we made the movie 2.5 years ago. So I'm going to tell you, nobody stuck a gun on my head and said I had to hire somebody on the spectrum.
Mhm.
But it turns out that George Steeves, who actually plays Walter, is on the spectrum, and not very different than
Oh,
Dustin Hoffman was.
I was
in-
going to mention Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah. He is very similar. His role is very similar
Mhm.
to that character from that movie.
Yeah,
And I got to tell you, George knocked it out of the park.
he
And
did. He was like the scene stealer. I mean, when he came on the scene, he was like the man with the wisdom. I loved it.
He was a breath of fresh air. But,
Yeah.
For a filmmaker, I can't even imagine, as we move into this world that we're in now, where, you want things to be represented fairly.
Mhm.
There are a lot of actors out there with disabilities. And in his particular case, being on the spectrum was an incredibly helpful thing, because I wasn't asking him to be odd or be unique. I
Yeah.
was asking him to be himself. And he really, he was so dedicated, learned the roles, learned the script, and, really, really gave 150%. So as a matter of fact, tomorrow we're having a screening in Beverly Hills, and he will see the movie for the first time.
Really?
And
Ah.
he's super excited.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
He was excellent. And tell me about your two leads.
Well, okay, so we have the man, William Moseley, is an
Mhm.
individual that I'm sure many of your audience has either heard of or seen. He was the star of Narnia, uh, I guess multiple movies, and
Yes.
now he's an adult, and he's British, and he did a magnificent job. We really, really enjoyed working with him, and he has a heart of gold, and I feel so fortunate to have made a movie with him.
He was excellent.
And then Johanna Braddy
Mhm.
is his counterpart. I guess they're both
Yes.
protagonists in this film,
Right.
and she's just magnificent. It was wonderful, because when you make a movie, you pray that there's going to be chemistry between the two leads.
Right.
In this particular case, I don't think we could have been any more fortunate.
It was
And-
perfect.
And to this day, I still speak to them once or twice a week about promoting the film and stuff. And not only are they on board, but they're really, really proud of what they did.
They should be.
Yeah.
Because the chemistry was really there. I mean, I've taken some acting classes, and you can just tell when people click and when they don't. And it just flowed so well. You could just see the connection,
Thank you.
It was great.
Yeah, it was. I mean, what's interesting as a filmmaker, and I'm telling you this because it's hard not to see some of the films that are being made today on Netflix or on Amazon,
Mhm.
where that the actors just met
Yeah.
a couple of days before they started shooting, and the chemistry issue, especially with big stars, either works or it doesn't.
Right.
And if it doesn't work, I think it's a real sad day, because they're not having the challenges that an independent filmmaker has.
That's right.
Those movies are big budget movies.
Yeah. Without giving too much away, do you want to give a little brief synopsis?
Sure. Saving Paradise is a film not unlike It's a Wonderful Life. It's a story about a small town that basically the town survives because of this pencil town. Excuse me,
Pencil
because of the
factory.
pencil
Yeah.
factory. And it's one of the biggest employers besides the cement factory.
Mhm.
And it is incredibly important to the blood of the community that it stays in business. And one day the factory is in play because one of the owner of the factory passes away, and the baton is handed off. And I think you're talking a wonderful story about a family that owns the factory, that inherits one of the children inherits the factory, and you find yourself in a real division, because one is a investment banker living on Wall Street, and another one is the father who's passed away, who's running this little pencil factory. And
Sure.
the best solution is just hire a broker and sell it. And they don't do that. And it's
all right, no more.
Yeah, it's an exciting process.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to share one thing, because not that you wouldn't have asked me the same question, but the timeliness of this film is a crucial aspect of why I made the movie. Because you can go back when I developed it in 2018, we were a divided country, and we still are a divided country.
Right.
And for us to work on a movie, and it's not a political film, but for us to work on a movie that really genuinely supports unity and community, this was what attracted me to making this movie, because this is what America is. Yeah. It's Americana, to fight for the community, to save the community. It's all those things.
Sure. Well, and also I love the idea of somebody choosing to not go to work in New York and working on something that is going to keep a community together. It's not his dream job by any means, right? But he's choosing family and saving something that, can help a lot of people. Yeah.
I mean, it's a choice, as we get older, it's a choice we all make. Right. And I think, I made a decision to make movies that are purposeful. My first movie was about post-traumatic stress and bullying, and it's still a really, really controversial and relevant subject. And this to me is a huge moment in time when we got to reflect on what makes us who we are. Right.
Yeah. And the script was so well written, and that it had a lot of curveballs in the second act. You think this is going to happen? Nope. You think the day is going to be saved? No. And it was so exciting and so moving at the end. And that's all I'll say. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's part of the journey that every filmmaker wants to work on a property. I say a script that has a lot of emotional turns, ups and downs.
Yes.
But in real life, that's the way life is anyways,
It's true. It's true. And
that's what I seeked. And that's what Bethany was attracted to when she found this property, and we began to develop it into something that actually becomes a real movie. And there lies the excitement, because it's funny, I told you I was just working on a little opening speech for my screening tomorrow. And, the primary subject that I want to talk for 3-4 minutes about is the dream of being able to wake up one morning and have 110 pages sitting in my hand, and jump forward a year and a half and have completed the movie in 19 days, no less.
19 days?
Yeah, that's what it takes to make a movie for a very small budget, and a lot of logistical, organizational aspects that I believe, are equally as important as a great script. You can't make a movie in, let's just say 20 days without being incredibly buttoned up.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like your background in commercial production prepared you, I mean, obviously it's a different arena, but just that mindset prepared you for where you are now.
Well, there's no doubt that it makes it easier for me because I'm very confident in my choices of what I choose to do and what I choose not to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
if somebody told me in the world that we're living in currently right now, I want to shoot for 2 weeks in Manhattan on the streets, I'd probably say sounds like fun,
Mhm.
but what time of year are you shooting?
Exactly.
It's horrible weather, you're screwed,
Right.
and these are the things that you learn after doing what I've done for 35 years. And that
Right.
is, you don't want to go there. You don't want to go here. Someone says, you got to hire this actor. He's fantastic. And then I go, oh, why don't you Google him and learn about how difficult he is.
Yes,
And,
exactly.
and I say that only as an illustration because my whole career was filled with challenges where I would be working with a very, very famous individual. And they would say, the whole reason we hired you, Jay, was because we know you're going to get it done. It wasn't because I was going to do it great. It
Yeah.
was because there was an assurance that I was going to accomplish what they needed. Because
Sure.
the reputation of that individual,
Hmm.
trust me, is
Wow.
and it's kind of crazy because it has nothing to do with filmmaking. It has to do
Right.
with psychology and your ability to
Yes.
be able to man the ship.
Right. Yeah. Well, it sounds like this latest project was an incredibly meaningful, you know, production to work on.
Yeah, it was very rewarding, very rewarding.
Any advice you'd give people that want to become filmmakers,
Sure.
get into this industry, and they are feeling like they are in a funk professionally?
Well, I think, I've got 3 daughters, and there's nothing more important to me than to do and to preach doing what you love.
Hmm.
Because I don't care how much you're paid. I don't care who's got a gun to your head. The reality of it is if you're not doing something fulfilling,
Yeah.
you're especially in America, you're missing an opportunity. And
Right.
you mentioned prior to us starting this interview about what you do and how you affect young people in schools
Right.
with with the programming you do. I mean, as a filmmaker, you have similar responsibilities. I would like for just one person to walk out of the theater and go, you know what, I'm inspired. And, if I was sitting in front of a group of 25 filmmakers that have aspirations, I think as well as I do that probably only about 2 of them are going to even attempt to succeed
Right.
because it takes work. It takes hard work.
It does.
And it begins with somebody turning on somebody like yourself
Hmm.
and watching other people tell their stories.
Yes.
So, my advice to any young filmmaker is to get an apprenticeship, work for somebody that you respect. That's what I did, and be inspired by that.
Right. And
It's
be
crazy.
open. Be open to people that you'll meet, to opportunities that you might think, oh, what am I taking this for? But it could lead to something else or help you grow in some way unexpected.
I know this sounds crazy and it'll show my age, but when I was 17, I was working for a photographer, and the first day he took me on the set of All in the Family. Okay. And then the second day we went and shot Kung Fu with Carradine.
Oh, yeah.
And then the following week it was Manic. These are the biggest shows on television. And here I was 17.
Wow.
And, so I look at that and I think to this day, or Laverne and Shirley, for example,
Hmm.
that's what was my beginning and that's what my inspiration was. But I didn't get in that situation by accident. I propelled myself out of a class of, 40 high school students that didn't choose to write a letter to that filmmaker and say, I want
Wow.
to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. But you
So
had
that's,
drive. You had drive to want to do that, you know?
and it's easier said than done, but I do believe, that, and I tell this to Bethany, my producer, I'm, I'm mesmerized by the fact that so few people do it.
Yeah.
I'm mesmerized. Does that make sense? I mean, I'll tell you one story. Okay.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
This is a great story. I'm shooting I have 3 stages in Hollywood. Okay. On one stage, I'm shooting Ray Charles on a big project for Powerball. On another stage, I'm prepping a huge project for Gatorade with Michael Jordan. And
Wow.
on another stage, I'm pre-building sets to Walk on the Moon with, I forget his name. No, it wasn't Lance Armstrong. Bicycle guy. No, it was whoever walked on the moon. I forgot at the beginning.
You mean the actual person that walked in the
Yeah,
moon?
not
Armstrong?
No,
The Russian?
No, we're talking about, God, his picture's right up on the wall. What does it say right up there? But anyways, so I'm sharing with you Buzz Aldrin.
Oh, Buzz
okay?
Aldrin. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm walking in the parking lot, and I swear to you, from God's mouth to your ears, you know, I'm saying to you that I meet this young man at the gate of my studio. And he says to me, Mr. Silverman, would you give me an opportunity? This is a true story. And I look at him and I said, look, I said, I'm so busy right now. If you want to hang around, be here at 6:30 tomorrow morning. So he shows up and he's going to hang around. And, you know, the reality of it is 100 people here. Okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we had shot Ray Charles in 3 different sets, pretty significant amount of energy. And I say to him, hey, how did it go, John? And he looks at me and he says, well, I thought I could use the camera or something, with a straight face. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, no, I mean, I thought I was going to be able to actually work with the camera.
Sure.
And I said, God, I'm so sorry. I said, well, you know, normally you just want to just take it all in and learn. And so I'll see you tomorrow. And he says, nah, I'm good enough. I'll never forget that. And it's my extreme example of an opportunity wasted. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, whatever that guy made of his career, I have no idea.
Sure.
But opportunities like this are available.
Right.
It's just, you got to be assertive and you got to be ambitious and you got to want to do it. But to think that he actually thought that he could operate my camera, it was insanity. Yeah. I mean, you know.
Exactly.
So that might go in the category of unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, I would say so. You know,
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like people to know about you or the work you do?
You know, I think my commitment is to do purposeful projects. In my life, there's nothing more important than sharing stories that could change your life, that could inspire you, that could make you a better person, that might make you go, wow, I'm watching a series right now on Netflix. I won't mention the name of it, but I'm learning about World War II stuff that I never knew before, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Bethany is searching for a project for me about the Holocaust that is different than any story I've ever heard. And the outcome of it is I'm now seeing stories about people that, you know, I didn't know. There's a wonderful movie called The Photographer. That's a Spanish movie that's about concentration camps for Spaniards in Germany. I never knew that existed.
No.
Not Jewish. They're Spaniards that were essentially imprisoned for being at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so this idea that you as a filmmaker have an ability to be able to share a story that nobody's ever heard. This is why I love Malcolm Gladwell, because here's a guy that essentially explores episode after episode after episode, stories that were kind of left alone and finished, but they're untrue. They're not completed.
I like that.
And he comes back at you and goes, well, in as much as you might have believed what you heard, what really happened after analytics and all the politics and all the press disappeared is XYZ.
Yeah.
And I just am mesmerized by that.
I love that.
Totally mesmerized.
I'm going to have to check that out.
I mean, I'll just share this with you because I know that your people would listen to this.
Okay.
He tells a story about the Toyota cars that were running out of into other cars or crashing. Okay. It's a true story. It happened, I think, 7 or 8 years ago.
You mean the self-driven cars? You mean the...
No. These are cars, maybe it's 10 years ago. But Toyota cost them $3 billion to fight this case and pay people
Whoa.
for the damages, but the cars would essentially not stop. Okay. And what ended up happening is the ploy that was used by the prosecution was to keep playing back this audio tape of a woman in the back seat of this Lexus that was describing to the police that her car could not stop. Okay. And her husband and her and two other people all died. And the audio plays the entire moment.
Oh,
It's maybe 30 seconds long.
okay.
That's what made Toyota get screwed. Okay. And the outcome of it is now years later, Malcolm Gladwell goes in, reassesses this whole story, and it's determined that for some reason, nobody wanted to look at the real evidence. And that is nobody ever touched the brakes in all the accidents.
What?
So it was a psychological event that is physically a reality, that people thought that the gas pedal was the brake pedal. They pressed it so hard that it got stuck under the mat, and subsequently the cars crashed. And the real truth of it is that did happen. But what all the black boxes said in all the cars was the brake was never touched. So that's a fascinating story.
That is.
About something that went on for 3-4 years and litigation and hundreds of millions of dollars. And then the outcome of it is they paid it off and it went away. But now he's revealing these facts. And we're talking about expert after expert after expert says it's true. Why did nobody touch the brakes? And
right.
You bring on psychologists, and the psychologists say, well, there's no reason to get overly complex here. They didn't think they were pressing the brake.
Was there a certain age that were in accidents? Certain age that were in these accidents, or all different ages?
Most of them were regular, people in their
all
30s
different ages.
40s. No, most of them were, I think, over 30. But
okay.
The interesting part of it is I just took my car in to get fixed, and they gave me a rental for the day, and I did exactly the same thing that's explained in this show, which is I inadvertently, because I'm not familiar with that car, no different than the one with the audio tape I just described. They were driving this car for the very first time. And when I put the car in drive, I actually put it in reverse. It's just because I'd never driven it before. Nobody stops you and says, don't drive until you make yourself familiar with the car.
I know, you really have to.
Well, none of us do.
I know. No, you're right. You're right. It's like, do we read the directions on most things? No.
Exactly. So look, I tell this story because it's just a fragment of some of the things I've learned from this one man. And I feel the same way about filmmakers who explore subjects that I'm unfamiliar with,
Yes.
So here I've given you an example of World War II movies that are new shows that are available for people to watch about World War II. And they don't deal with, just the concentration camps. They deal with this idea, that the complexity of this whole moment was not just isolated to this horrible event with Jews and which is despicable, horrible moment in history. But there are so many incredible other stories that existed at the very same time that, stories that should be told.
Are worth telling. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's your website for people to check out your work?
You can go to jaysilverman.com, which is probably the easiest, or jaysilvermanproductions.com.
Okay.
Productions.com. And you can see the new project that I'm working on called Yale.
Okay, good.
And Yale is very exciting. And that's what we've been working on for the last year and a half.
Good. What's it been like releasing this film in the pandemic?
Very unique. I'm telling everybody because I'm a positive guy that the timing couldn't be more perfect. Just by virtue of the fact that the movie, even though it's playing in theaters in certain markets, the truth of it is it's available on Amazon and it's available on iTunes and Spectrum and Rico or whatever. But the outcome of it is that we never expected the movie to play in theaters, and it's playing in theaters.
Good.
That's number one. Number two, we're all at various levels in the pandemic. If
Right.
you're in Los Angeles, that's where I am. It's not
Mhm.
so horrible, but I've got friends that live in Florida and live in
Sarasota.
In Texas or
Mhm.
whatever, that are, not
really
such
hard.
not such a pretty picture.
Right.
But they're all able to watch my movie on streaming and on demand, and that's exciting. That's
Yes.
exciting.
Yeah. And we need positivity, and we need films to keep us lifted,
It's so important because I'm so grateful that you've had me on. I've had a number of wonderful interviews, and when you hear people say this is a movie America's got to see,
Mhm.
or you hear people say that it is wonderful to refresh ourselves to what it was like when we all were unified. And I'm not talking that we'll ever be politically unified, but I'm talking about where people help each other
Yes.
for a better cause.
Yes.
It breaks my heart, that
We are where we are.
we are where we are. And it is, I don't know, I just feel like my movie, whether you're on the left or the right, is going to inspire you.
I would say so. I loved it.
You did? Give me a quote.
I'll send you a quote because it was so meaningful in so many ways.
Would you do that? I'd be very
Yeah,
grateful.
I'll send you a quote. You know what? And I love the unexpected little surprises at the end, but I'll craft something, send it to you.
Thank you so much.
I absolutely will. All right. Congrats. This was great.
Well, I hope that the people that watch you are inspired by what we discussed, and look for Saving Paradise, September 3rd.
Excellent. And all the information is on the show blog, getthefunkoutshow.kuci.org.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
You made my day.
Excellent.